The heels hit the marble with the kind of hollow echo that felt like a verdict. 14 hours at Horizon Brands had chewed away at my patience. But tonight was different. Tonight, I was 32, alone, and painfully aware that my family hadn't so much as remembered. Elara Vance, Senior PR Director, sharp, accomplished. But tonight, just a number on a calendar. A candle waiting for acknowledgement that would never come. The elevator doors whispered open. Mirrored walls reflecting a woman who could close million-dollar deals, but couldn't close the gap between herself and the people who should have loved her unconditionally. My phone screen, empty. No birthday messages, no calls, nothing. I tried to rationalize. It's fine. Birthdays are for children, I told myself. But when I stepped into my apartment, the small cake I'd bought sat like a judge on the coffee table. One lonely, unlit candle. It was waiting for a miracle I'd stopped believing in years ago. Happy birthday. To me, I whispered, voice caught between resignation and fury. The air smelled faintly of vanilla frosting and dust. The clock ticked toward midnight, dragging every past humiliation behind it. Then I opened social media. There it was. Leo, my brother, surrounded by champagne and smiling faces. A banner reading, "Congratulations on your promotion." My father's arm draped around him, pride radiating like heat, from a son I had never touched. My mother's grin was brighter than any candle could have been. 5 hours ago, my birthday. 5 hours. 5 hours of erasure, disguised as celebration. Memories clawed their way up. 11 candles melted alone in a restaurant. Parents at Leo's baseball tournament. 17. With grandmother. My parents touring Ivy League schools for him. It's his future, they'd said. Always him, never me. My phone rang. Mother. Desperate hope made my chest ache. Elara, darling, so glad I caught you. We're planning a little soiree for Leo and Charlotte's anniversary next month. I swallowed. This is your birthday, I thought. My voice trembled. Mother, today was my birthday. A pause. Then, like a practiced wind, she whispered, "Oh, sweetheart, it just slipped our minds." Slipped. Every year, every time. And then, my bonus, $85,000. Money I'd earned, unrecognized, uncelebrated. Something inside me shifted. Cold, heavy, deliberate. The plates of my life were grinding into alignment. "Don't worry about it, Mother," I said. Words felt alien, foreign, unyielding. I understand what's important to this family. And for the first time, I really did. The office hummed around me. Fluorescent lights buzzing like tiny betrayals overhead. Colleagues chatted about trivialities, coffee orders, weekend plans. But I was somewhere else, somewhere quiet, meticulous, calculating. The images of Leo's party burned in my mind. The smiles, the banners, the complete absence of me. I realized sharply, coldly, waiting for recognition was a luxury I would never have. Their love was transactional, selective, seasonal. But my life? That could be mine to command. No more crumbs. No more invisible existence. They think they own the narrative. They think I'm weak. Let's see how long that illusion lasts. I began to plot. Not vengeance born of rage, but strategy born of precision. Every slight, every forgotten birthday, every mispronounced name became data. Patterns emerged, and with them, opportunities. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at my reflection. Elara Vance, 32, Senior PR Director, smart, resourceful, invisible no longer. I imagined a life where I dictated my own celebrations, my own milestones, my own recognition, where I was not a shadow in the corner of their photographs, but the author of my story. And then the ritual began. Small at first. I bought $2 bills and placed them in a small glass dish by my desk. A token of patience, of slow accumulation, a symbol that I could turn neglect into currency. The plan was not immediate. It was deliberate, subtle. I would succeed silently, rise above their noise, and when the time came, I would present the evidence of their negligence with surgical precision. No theatrics, no melodrama, just truth. A notebook emerged. Names, dates, slights, omissions. Every forgotten birthday. Every dismissed achievement catalogued with painstaking clarity. I was no longer a child waiting for acknowledgement. I was a historian of my own pain, and historians always win in the end. And in that quiet, obsessive mapping of my past, I understood something vital. The coldest revenge isn't violence, isn't confrontation. It's inevitability. They would see me rise, and they would understand, too late, that they had trained the fire they now could not contain. Weeks became months. Every morning, I walked through my apartment like a general inspecting a battlefield. My life became a series of rituals, small acts of control that anchored me. $2 bills stacked neatly in a silver dish, calendars annotated with every family slight, digital folders with photos, receipts, social media posts, each fragment a piece of the architecture I was building. I found solace in the smell of fresh paint. At a local property showing, the scent of sawdust and pine seemed intoxicating. I imagined my life unfolding in a space that belonged solely to me, a sanctuary immune to neglect. By the end of that week, the deal was signed. A modest lakefront house in Michigan. 3 bedrooms, wide windows, wraparound deck. $375,000 invested in independence. I spent my weekends furnishing it with precision. The color of the walls, the placement of books, the angle of every photograph. I orchestrated it all. One small whimsical sign read, "The Birthday Suite," a private rebellion against years of erasure. Meanwhile, I gathered evidence, quietly and meticulously. Emails, messages, financial records, each slight catalogued, every omission mapped. Birthday invitations I never received. Family gifts I'd been denied. Parties thrown in my absence. Patterns emerged, and I began to understand the psychology of their neglect. Ego, favoritism, indifference. But I didn't just prepare evidence. I prepared myself. Mental rehearsals, emotional calibrations. I practiced calm detachment in front of mirrors. When the time comes, you will not shout. You will not cry. You will present the truth, like a scalpel cutting clean through lies. I even crafted small rituals of control, things that felt almost superstitious. I'd leave a $2 bill tucked inside a notebook on the night of every Leo-centric family event. A quiet reminder that the ledger of attention and love was being rewritten. These rituals were not for luck. They were for discipline, for the cultivation of inevitability. By the time my house was furnished, my evidence compiled, and my patience honed, I had transformed from the invisible daughter into a force both deliberate and unstoppable. I was ready. It started subtly. The first tremors of their panic. Family group chats buzzing with whispers of my new house, my growing independence. Where did she get the money? Did she really buy that lakefront property? The questions were sharp as knives, but I did nothing. I watched in silence, listened, catalogued. Every misstep they made, every lie they whispered about me, only reinforced the narrative I was building. Their words, meant to diminish me, instead became evidence of their desperation. At work, I laughed quietly with Jasmine over coffee. "You've gone silent," she said. "They must be scared." "They are," I murmured, eyes flicking to the screen where another message had arrived. Elara should contribute more to Leo's anniversary gift. She's got the bonus. After all, the absurdity made my lips twitch. My own mother, misspelling my name in the group chat, treating me as both invisible and obligated. I poured my coffee slowly, savoring the taste. Patience was power. Then came the subtle smear campaigns. A cousin calling to ask if I'd changed jobs to avoid family obligations. A distant aunt forwarding false rumors about my finances. My father questioning my loyalty. In casual conversation, each lie was crafted with the precision of someone who assumed I would react, but I did not. Silence. Calm. Observation. Their venom only revealed the cracks in their own armor. Every attempt to provoke me, every smear, only strengthened my resolve. I documented it all. Screenshots, recordings, side notes. Their desperate need to control the narrative became a roadmap to my eventual triumph. In those weeks, I felt an odd satisfaction, not from hurting them, but from seeing the truth of their character laid bare. They were unraveling while I built. They thought I was invisible. They thought silence was weakness. They were wrong. The dining room smelled of roasted beef and polished wood, but I barely noticed. The Vance family sat around the table, pride and smugness dripping from their postures. They thought I had come to apologize, to beg, or perhaps to be placated. I placed the first album on the table. Thick, glossy pages, filled with photographs of Leo. Every birthday, every graduation, every lavish celebration, candles, champagne, laughter not mine. All meticulously documented. Their faces flickered with unease. Next, I set down my album. Sparse, lonely, store-bought cakes, fleeting moments, the occasional photograph with Mrs. Henderson, or a colleague, a visual silence that screamed louder than any words. Finally, the spreadsheet, numbers aligned in neat columns, rows of omissions, birthday funds diverted, college investments skewed toward one child, each figure a testament to the life I had been denied. "Do you see it?" I asked, voice calm but piercing, almost clinical. 32 years of neglect. Every birthday you ignored. Every achievement you dismissed. Every dollar unaccounted for. My father's hand twitched. My mother's eyes widened, glancing between the albums and the spreadsheet as if seeing ghosts. "What is the point of this melodrama?" he barked. "We favored Leo. He is the legacy. What do you want? An apology?" I leaned forward slightly, tone steady, unyielding. "I don't want anything from you. I waited 32 years for acknowledgement. I am done waiting." The room fell into a thick, suffocating silence. The plates of beef Wellington sat untouched. The weight of my evidence, my patience, my meticulous cataloging pressed down on them. Their control, their narratives, evaporated under the light of truth. I stood, placing my album of emptiness on the table. "Consider it a gift," I said softly. The click of the door as I left was louder than any slam could ever be. And for the first time they realized, I had been planning all along, patient, silent, relentless. The invisible daughter was gone. The historian of their negligence remained. The shrapnel of that night did not just fall on the dinner table. It ricocheted through the Vance family, like a storm they couldn't control. Gossip spread through social circles. Whispers grew louder, and the carefully curated image of perfection they had cultivated for decades began to crack. I watched from my lakefront sanctuary, the gentle lapping of water against the dock, a stark contrast to the chaos I'd left behind. Friends laughed around me, glasses clinking, music spilling into the crisp Michigan air. This was my world now, built with intention, care, and freedom. Messages poured in. Confused relatives, stunned acquaintances, even old friends of the family who had never seen me as more than a footnote. I read some, deleted others. Silence became my armor. Let them talk. Let them flounder in the consequences of their own neglect. Leo's calls came later, tentative and awkward. "Elara, I didn't realize," he admitted one evening, voice low, almost ashamed. Therapy had begun to open his eyes, peeling away the layers of privilege and favoritism that had blinded him. But I did not rush to forgive. Observation was the currency I preferred. My mother's frantic attempts to reconcile arrived in waves. Flowers, emails, invitations. But I smiled quietly at the absurdity. For years she had ignored me, erased me, demanded from me and now her noise no longer reached me. I had built walls of evidence, independence, and dignity, too solid to breach. And I reveled in it, not cruelty, not malice, but the quiet satisfaction of inevitability. Their reputations were no longer pristine. The narrative they had written for themselves was shattered. Meanwhile, I walked through my life like someone who had finally claimed ownership of her story. For the first time, their chaos felt irrelevant. I had measured it, catalogued it, and ultimately transcended it. They had been masters of my past. Now, I was the architect of my present. A year later, the sun rose over the lake, scattering gold across the water like a benediction. 33 candles flickered on a cake, surrounded by laughter that was real, unforced, and mine. The air smelled of pine, grilled fish, and fresh beginnings. Leo arrived, hesitant, holding a wrapped gift. I wanted to give you this, he said, humility softening his voice. Therapy had made him see. He'd glimpsed the cost of neglect, the invisible pain he had never felt until it was undeniable. Inside the package was a photograph I had never seen. Me, 8 years old, laughing on a swing, unobserved, unrecorded by the family, yet immortalized in this small token. Proof you were there, he said quietly, even when nobody was watching. It wasn't reconciliation, it wasn't complete healing, but it was acknowledgement, a first step, and for me, that was enough. The cost had been immense, years of invisibility, solitude, and painstaking planning, nights spent cataloging every slight, every omission, every betrayal, emotional labor heavier than any physical burden. Yet the prize was equally vast, autonomy, dignity, and a life fully chosen by me. I stood on the dock, watching the warm lights of my home reflect across the water. The lake held no echoes of their neglect, only the calm assurance of a life I had built with my own hands. It wasn't revenge that changed everything. It was the choice, the conscious, deliberate decision to stop waiting for someone else's validation, to construct my own table and fill it with people who saw me, truly saw me. The greatest gift I ever gave myself wasn't the house. It wasn't even the wealth or the meticulous justice I had orchestrated. It was the permission to finally, unapologetically, come home to myself. And in that quiet reflection, I understood. Invisibility may have shaped me, but it could no longer define me. I was seen, I belonged, and the life I had longed for had finally begun.